We have assisted me in the opining department to cover these rather tricky questions. All friends to the show, my titans of tumult. First, Robert Weiner, Democratic strategist, columnist, and former communications director for Clinton drug czar General Barry McCaffrey. He's also former chief of staff of the House Committee on Aging. Bob, good to have you back. I think I'll go to you on this one, Bob. I think less legitimate is this president on the topic because he's now been caught red-handed expanding the use of the very program for which he chastised Bush, even if the program has validity, which I believe it may. Doesn't Obama come across as looking like quite the hypocrite?
Well, yes is the short answer, but
we like those short answers. Amy, what's your take on it?
Come on, I get to say
it. Go ahead, Bob. I'm kidding.
Go ahead. In the middle. I think that Snowden should be arrested and put in jail, but I really do stand on the point that I made in the first place. As an American history master's degree, I can't see how you read the 14th Amendment and come up any way other than these massive dragnet sweeps are absolutely illegal, and the courts, by the way, have blocked Obama.
Well, I'm
on
trying
like
not
torture.
I'm not trying to be too cute by half, and I'm not trying to be petty. But by the way, you were quoting the Fourth Amendment, not the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment is the Equal Protection Clause.
Right.
But I take your point. But again, Amy, there is even a little bit of wiggle room here. Again, and you guys know me personally. You've looked right across my eyes, and you know I can recite the Bill of Rights by heart. Amy, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated. Now, denotatively or connotatively, therein lies the wiggle room. However, is it a room that has been well exceeded by this administration's practice, Amy, right now?
Ultimately, the voters and some courts will decide, but I would say this much. If we're going to do this, we should have an awful lot of checks on it. We should have a lot more rigorous congressional oversight, and we should have the courts involved, not just one court, but more than one, to check on things to make sure that our constitutional rights are not violated.
Amy, you have just set up the following segment. Marvelous segue. Splendid gal that you are. Folks, these two are going to be sticking with us. We'd like you to as well. You are with Babylon, Main Street Radio Network. I'm Alan Nathan. We have assisted me in the opining, old friends to the show, my titans of tumult, Robert Weiner, Democratic strategist, columnist, and former communications director for Clinton drug czar General Barry McCaffrey. Also on board, Amy Ridenour, chairman of the National Center for Public Policy Research. Bob, first to you. By the way, very quickly, Bob, would you consider Edward Snowden a whistleblower or a leaker? Now, to me, the former has heroic connotations, while the latter carries more of an ignominious stain, if you will. Which is it from your perspective?
Well, you remember I emailed you yesterday, a hero or traitor, and then sure enough, Wolf Blitzer took my line and did a whole thing on hero or traitor. You got to land in the middle with this guy. He thinks he's being patriotic because he's exposing abuses that he thinks are unconstitutional under the Fourth Amendment, whereas, in fact, he's violated the law and violated his job. So I think he's got to go to jail. I think we're a nation of laws, but I think that law is one that he exposed. So I'm smack in the middle.
You know, Amy, to me, the law was already exposed. It was openly passed. Now, you have secret components of it, but our representatives, knowing about it, ensures that it was not a violation, at least of legislative law. We understand that there are such things as required secrets. So we understand that it's better for the enemy to remain in the dark than it is for us to be in the light. Now, that's my phraseology, but still, I mean, that's essentially how I would truncate it, and I think that's how most people grasp it. And as I recall the difference, Amy, you're a whistleblower if you tried to inform your higher-ups or Congress about an infraction or law-breaking before going to the press. However, on this occasion, as I mentioned earlier, this program is legal, known to the body of Congress, and has FISA oversight, Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act.
Not necessarily.
Like the IRS's political targeting, Amy, however, like the IRS's political targeting of conservatives has brought about bipartisan outrage, PRISM, this program, about which we're all speaking, has bipartisan support as well as bipartisan outrage against Mr. Snowden. Will he ultimately confront the same fate, hanging over Private First Class Bradley Manning, the sperm cell who had no compunction whatsoever when endangering thousands of lives by releasing a tonnage of classified material to WikiLeaks? Is he going to face the same medicine? Your take.
Well, I think he will be prosecuted. Now, what happens in a courtroom, of course, is completely unpredictable. Witness the OJ trial. That said, I think that he would have a much better chance of getting off, as it were, if he had first, and I'm assuming he didn't do this, I don't know this for a fact, if he had first gone to numerous members of Congress and privately said to them, I think this is going beyond the law. I think this is happening. I think Congress needs to know about it. And yes, Congress did know about it, and some more than others. But if he had done numerous things between the extremes, which one was to keep his mouth completely quiet and the other was to go public in front of the entire world, he did not have to go to that extreme.
Yeah.
So, it does bring in the question that what were his motives?
Yeah, no, that's a very good point.
I hate
we
to
don't
do this.
really know.
I hate to do this, but precedent.
Amy, go ahead.
Ellsberg
Bob, go
got
ahead,
off.
Bob.
Ellsberg
What's that?
got off.
Say what?
Yeah, okay.
Daniel Ellsberg got off for releasing the Pentagon Papers.
Well, yeah, and we were also willing to let the Vietnamese go to, where. It's a different era.
Yeah, but not only that, as Richard Cohn, I think, rightly pointed out in his column, therein lies a disparity because that really was in violation of the law. That really was keeping a secret from Congress. Congress can't now claim that it's been in the dark about that which it was involved in passing. Also, by the way, to those who are so outraged over the absence of oversight, Bob, let me go to you. Given that the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act court, the FISA court, has 11 rotating judges, why the excruciating concern? I mean, just as Cohn also pointed out, he said, quote, these judges are the same ones who rule on warrants the government seeks in domestic criminal cases. If we trust them for that, why would we not trust them for other things as well? Does Mr. Cohn have a point, Bob?
Well, I'm coming to the conclusion that the FISA court is a rubber stamp court with about 2,000 requests and 2,000 approvals, and all they did was they modified a little bit 60
But
of the
how
2,000.
can it be a rubber stamp? How can it be a rubber stamp court? How can it be a rubber stamp court when it's not a stagnant court? As I said, you've got 11 rotating judges.
Because
By the way,
they define their mission as simply technically approving the process, not approving right or wrong. That's how they define their mission. And I think that's wrong, and that's why we need this increased oversight that both Amy and I are talking about.
Well, I just want to let everybody know there is a precedence. There's precedence on this. In both the United States versus Trung Dinh Hong, 1980, heard by the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, and Inree Sealed case, 2002, heard by the FISA appellate court, both agree that the president has the inherent authority, i.e. intrinsic constitutional power, to conduct warrantless wiretaps for foreign intelligence gathering purposes, including those involving domestic partners to foreign threats.
That's great.
It seems the measure is time-sensitive existential threat, or would you put it differently?
Everybody's forgetting that this includes domestic calls, and it includes domestic internet searches and domestic websites. It's every American, and that's the broad sweep that the Founding Fathers said no to. That's exactly what is meant, because you didn't read the second part of the Fourth Amendment, which says that particularly describing the place to be searched and the person or things to be seized. It's intended to be specific on a specific person, not
but it hinges on the word. It hinges on the word unreasonable.
That's the first
and I think
clause.
Therein lies is the. Well, one is not in opposition to the other. It's in addition. So it allows for that wiggle room, whether we like it or not. It just does.
But you can't define reasonable meaning everybody. That's the point of not doing a dragnet. Not doing a fishing expedition.
You're not looking at anybody until a red flag comes up.
Everybody you've talked to, Alan, all the affairs that you and I ever had before we got married, they would have known who we talked to and maybe the one before we got married.
Amy,
that's my point.
Well,
Amy, you were going to say.
I'm going to say not necessarily. There's a little bit of anonymity in the fact that they have this sheer volume of stuff. I'm not.
It's on record. They haven't been the record.
I'm not saying that this administration wouldn't use something against somebody political. I mean, just look over at the IRS. And I'm not saying that I'm not saying that I'm perfectly comfortable with every single bit of this. On the other hand, I'm also not comfortable with having my children being blown up by Al Qaeda.
Right.
And that's why where I come down is that it is reasonable to collect this information, but I would like to see more oversight, perhaps two courts, so that they actually feel like they're not more than a rubber stamp. There may be a number of things that we can do to increase congressional oversight. I suspect the congressional oversight tends to be stronger when the president is of the opposite party, but we shouldn't look at it like that.
You got Rand Paul and Bernie Sanders on the same side of this one. So I don't think this is part of an issue.
They're on the